A large sinkhole swallowing buildings at a resort near Disney World in Central Florida this morning. Rescue officials in Lake County say the sinkhole is about 60 feet in diameter. The sinkhole nearly devoured one three-story building and continues to sink another. It happened early this morning. 35 guests at the Summer Bay Resort were rushed out of the building to safety.
People woke up in the middle of the night to a cracking sound. Minutes later, they were told to get out as fast as they could.
Big popping noise, cracking, glass breaking, just...
The year's most powerful typhoon brings chaos to parts of the northern Philippines.
The storm triggered waves 8 feet high and left at least 44 missing, and at least 2 people dead. 109-mile-an-hour winds toppled power lines, and heavy rain fell across cities and food-growing plains.
Now that you can see behind me, there are a number of houses here that have been destroyed, but according to the municipal government of Casiguran, almost 80% of infrastructure in this town has been destroyed, including schools, including roads, and including houses.
A woman waves for help as she struggles to cling to debris in the muddy, raging waters of a river in Isabela province. As yet, her fate unknown as the swollen river swept her along. Typhoon Utor is the most powerful to have hit the Philippines this year, and it's also being described as the strongest so far anywhere in the world in 2013. It brought down power lines and caused destruction that's yet to be fully assessed as it battered coastal and mountainous regions in the north of the country.
Japanese children cool off at a water park in Tokyo as a heat wave sweeps the country. Parents say the unusually hot weather has made it difficult to find outdoor summer activities for their children. Residents in the southern Kochi prefecture sweltered in temperatures of 41 degrees Celsius, the highest temperature since records began in 1872.
South and the east, it's been a record heat wave that is continuing right across some of those provinces. The highest temperatures nationwide are expected today. Weather forecasters have issued highest level hot weather warning for the 19th consecutive day.
Harvest prospects are looking grim in Zhejiang. The sizzling heat has wilted most of the crops in the province. Farmers are already reporting record losses. The heat has also been blamed for the death of fish in local fisheries.
Zhejiang, Anhui and Shanghai have seen record temperatures this year. Shanghai is experiencing a 140-year high of 41.2 degrees Celsius.
Parts of the Philadelphia area are recovering from severe flooding. Heavy rains turned some streets into temporary lakes on Tuesday, stranding some motorists. High water was the hazard at a golf course. The search is expected to resume this morning for a teenager who was swept away in the rushing waters of a creek.
4, 5, 6 inches of rain fell in some areas, and now we are seeing the aftermath of that.
After this storm that was much stronger and much wetter than many expected.
Three people have been killed and tens of thousands forced to evacuate as Typhoon Utor rips through southern China. Heavy rain is battering the Guangdong province, causing widespread flooding and mudslides. At least 5 people are missing. Typhoon Utor blew in with winds reaching up to 151 kilometers per hour.
Over 88,000 residents in low-lying areas of Maoming City were forced to flee their homes. State television CCTV showed footage of flooded villages, damaged houses and uprooted trees.
Something's killing fish, about 1,000 of them in a pond on the National Mall.
As you can imagine, it's causing concern among tourists and creating quite a stink downtown.
A day-long cleanup, you can still smell and see the problem.
Just after 2:30 p.m., workers in New Zealand felt the effects of a 6.5 magnitude earthquake. The capital, Wellington, only suffered superficial damage. The epicenter was further south in Seddon and struck at a dangerously shallow depth of 8 kilometers, similar to the tremor which devastated the South Island city of Christchurch in 2011.
As I say, thankfully no injuries, but some people, we understand, were trapped in elevators for some minutes, which must have been terrifying.
Air and rail services are suspended while officials check tracks and runways for damage. There are also widespread power outages across the north of the South Island.
Homes destroyed, families stranded, road links and bridges washed away. Torrential monsoons and flash floods have hit Pakistan's Punjab province. Local media report that more than 200 villages have been submerged.
At least 98 people have died in flood-related accidents this month, especially in urban areas.
Government officials say more than 100,000 people have been affected by the floods this month.
Growing battle against fierce wildfires burning in the west. In fact, as we come on the air tonight, 38 large fires across 10 western states. In one fire, they're going from house to house to get families out. Idaho's Beaver Creek fire. They began knocking on those doors in the middle of the night as that fire tripled in size. The erratic winds whipping those flames into tornado-like fire whirls.
This wildfire has consumed more than 100,000 acres. It is a massive blaze, roughly the size of the city of Denver or Detroit.
With drought conditions burning fires hotter and faster than ever before, crews face new challenges, protecting homes encroaching on dense forest land.
There's a lot of narrow gulches in this area with homes built right through the middle of them. Just incredible fire behavior with our fire crews in there trying to protect those structures.
The Beaver Creek fire has devoured nearly 100,000 acres since last week, and the nearly 700 firefighters there still have a long way to go. Another 1,000 firefighters are pouring in. 42 large wildfires are now raging in 11 states, from Alaska down to Arizona.
A volcano in southern Japan has erupted, creating a spectacular plume of ash 3.1 miles high. The ash cloud from Sakurajima, an already active volcano in the prefecture of Kyushu, is the highest volcanic plume ever recorded for the volcano. The local meteorological observatory in Kagoshima says the eruption began at 2:41 Eastern Daylight Time, with the large plume of smoke rising over 3 miles above the crater. The observatory also reported a pyroclastic flow travelling just over half a mile southeast down the slope of the near 3,700-foot high volcano. Local residents in Kagoshima City held towels to their mouths and wore masks to protect themselves from soot and ash as smoke temporarily filled the streets.
The eruption also created a small flow of volcanic material up to 1 kilometre from the crater. Believe it or not, it was the 500th eruption of this volcano just this year.
Now, there's no relief in sight for the tens of thousands of people living in Russia's Far East, battered by the worst flooding in more than a century. Water levels have already broken a historical record for the region, and they're expected to reach the peak only by the middle of the week. Around 30,000 people have already been evacuated by emergency services, and authorities say this could be just the beginning.
Devastating floods along Russia's border with China could force 100,000 people out of their homes. Villages in the Amur region and in the Jewish Autonomous District have been engulfed. Water levels have reached 6 meters in some places. Officials say the floods, brought on by unusually heavy rains, are the biggest to hit the area in 120 years.
The Amur River near the Chinese border burst its banks after heavy rain. The army and emergency workers have set up more than 150 temporary shelters, providing water, hot food and medical supplies.
China is used to flooding at this time of year, but this is said to be the worst for decades. 6 regions have been badly hit by heavy rains, 3 in the south and 3 in the northeast, where scores of people have been killed.
At least 91 people have been killed by floods triggered by days of heavy rain in southern and northeastern China.
South China's Guangdong province is witnessing its worst flooding in 50 years as Typhoon Utor brings days of heavy rainfall. Torrential rains since Thursday morning have swollen reservoirs and the Suijiang River, with water covering roads and submerging croplands. Floods have destroyed dozens of homes in Huaiji, a county of about 1 million people.
Guangdong province has been worst hit. Typhoon Utor landed here last week. The heavy rains that followed brought chaos. This bridge in Meizhou City has stood for almost 80 years. Now the struggle to protect it from rushing floodwaters. Repairing damage on this scale is likely to be a long and difficult process. Thousands of soldiers have been drafted in to help, filling sandbags, reinforcing dams, rescuing the stranded. Setbacks are likely. More rain is expected in the next few days.
Experts say they won't be surprised if White Island erupts again in the coming days after the volcano coughed into life this morning. This sped-up camera footage captured a column of steam towering 4 kilometres into the Bay of Plenty sky. Sightseers on a trip to the island also had a good view of the action and took these pictures while on the water. The volcano's been rumbling away for about a year, and today's eruption follows seismic activity yesterday under the island. Volcanic alert levels were raised soon after the eruption.
Monsoon rains lashed down in various provinces in the Philippines, triggering flash floods and landslides that killed at least 8 people. At least 133,000 people sought shelter in government evacuation centres across the main island of Luzon, and more than double that number moved to relatives or friends' homes for safety during the past 3 days of intense rainfall. Massive flooding has affected several towns in Pampanga province, about 80 kilometres north of Manila, with some major roads impassable and low-lying villages submerged underwater. The provinces of Pampanga and Laguna, along with 3 others in Luzon, have declared a state of calamity due to widespread flooding and damage to infrastructure. The southwest monsoon, which lasts from June to September, was intensified by Tropical Storm Trami and brought torrential rains in Manila and nearby provinces of Luzon Island.
Under a so-called state of calamity because it's mostly underwater. Cavite province is suffering like much of the northern Philippines from unprecedented downpours.
A city of 12 million people transformed into a kind of water world. At least half of the Philippines' capital has been submerged this week. Outside Manila, it's even worse in places, with weeks of rainfall coming down in just 24 hours.
Portugal has requested help from Spain and France as wildfires cut a swathe of destruction across central and northern areas of the country. Lisbon's Interior Ministry has asked for air support in the form of 4 firefighting Canadair planes. Around 1,300 emergency personnel are on the ground battling more than 275 blazes, thought to have been caused by soaring summer temperatures.